more than likely, issuing 1099s is something that you have to do whether you realized it or not. Today, let's take a look about some tips in the 1099 world that may be a foreign term to you, it may not. So we're gonna dive into what actually is a 1099, whether you're new to business, whether you've been in business for a while. So Kaylee, if you just wanna dive in and give us a little bit of basic, like what is a 1099?
It's a form that reports self-employment income. So this is not how you report an employee's wages or things like this, but like if you've paid interest to somebody, not to a bank, but to an individual or another company similar to that that's not a bank, or you've hired someone to do work for your business that's not an employee, they have a contractor, like say it's advertising, they built you a website, something like that, that's who you're going to be paying issuing these kind of things to. It's not your regular employees, but it's your extra help that you've hired throughout the year to do things for you, repairs, advertising, things along those lines, services that have been provided.
You talked a little bit about who you issue it to. I know there's different types of 1099s out there. There's actually a lot. There's probably like 10 to 15 different types. We are not going to discuss them all. You don't want to be here for that. It would probably be super boring. But if you just want to touch on a couple of the common ones and who gets those common ones.
So as a small business owner, you're going to issue two pretty common ones, which is going to be your 1099 NEC, which has been around for decades, but has been pushed into the forefront as of last year, needing to be issued for the year 2020, so we issued them in 2021. And these are non-employee compensation. In the past, if you have any knowledge of 1099s reported on your 1099 miscellaneous box 7, it's now moved to its own new form. We have a YouTube out there about that, so you can check the link below. And then, so still with that 1099 miscellaneous, it's just no longer the box 7 we're using the most, but it's that box 1 for your rent. So if you have an office space that you rent from somebody, well, you need to issue them a 1099 miscellaneous for rent, or if you got a piece of equipment from somebody, or if you're a farmer and you rent land from somebody, you'll also need to issue a 1099 for that.
Let's say I'm a real estate broker and I have agents underneath me that I pay commissions to.
Yes.
I'm going to issue them a 1099 NEC for the amount that I paid them in commissions.
Correct.
So then I'm just basically, our 1099 miscellaneous is now for our rents and our other incomes that don't go on that 1099 NEC.
Yes.
Now, who doesn't get a 1099?
So anyone who's incorporated, so if they have, but watch for that INC, because some people can put the INC in their name and they're not really incorporated. So this is where you're going to want to get some forms filled out from them to confirm these things. But corporations do not get 1099s. Payments for merchandise. So say you're a retailer and you've bought clothes from somebody to resell in your shop, you don't issue 1099s for things like that. Like I said earlier, wages to employees are not on your 1099s. Those are on a separate form called a W-2. And then anything, payments with a credit card. So you've hired a consultant, but you swipe your credit card to pay them. Those do not go on 1099 because they're reported on 1099K separately. So if you report it over here on your NEC or your miscellaneous, whatever form you're reporting it on, and then it's also on their 1099K, which is they're going to get from their credit card processor, their income's going to be doubled. They don't want that, you don't want that. So if you pay for the credit card, no 1099 NEC or miscellaneous is needed.
Yeah, that issue with the 1099K has really came about in the last few years because so many people are paying for things with the credit card. And so you have to separate out, did I write them a check? Then okay, they need a 1099 because I paid them over $600. Oh, actually I paid it with credit card, then they don't get a 1099 for that. If you have somebody that pay monthly or more often and you're paying them with both, that gets really confusing. That's where you really want to make sure you're keeping a good set of books and records so you know what to issue the 1099 for and what not to issue the 1099 for. So if we've decided we're issuing a 1099 to someone, what info do we need to get from them so we can do that accurately?
Okay, basics, social security number or EIN, address, operating name, legal name of the business. The best way to get this information is a form W-9. You can get this from the IRS website. It asks them to fill all of it out and also has their entity type on there so that you know, oh, well, they're incorporated. I don't need to issue them one. But you have that form still for your records. So if you're ever audited, you can say, well, they told me right here, I'm a C Corp or I'm an S Corp, so you did not need to issue me a 1099, but really they weren't. This is your, cover yourself, check all your bases, make sure everything, I's are dotted, T's are crossed. situation. So get that W-9 from these people because it gives you the information you need to fill out the form, or that you don't need to issue them one.
Yeah, that W-9 is really your safety net. So if we're issuing 1099s, when are they actually due? When do we need to submit them?
So with the bringing back of that NEC form, things got a little bit more confusing. So it's 2 different due dates. The 1099 NEC is due January 31st, and then your 1099 miscellaneous is due March 31st if it's being electronically filed, but February 28th if it's a paper filing. So 3 dates, 2 forms. Very confusing, I know. So January 31st for the NEC, March 31st for your miscellaneous if e-filed, the February 28th if it's not.
That's a lot of detail. Let's dive into some tips that we have for you. You want to make sure that you're keeping your bookkeeping up to date. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? You're either doing it yourself and you're doing it maybe on an Excel spreadsheet, or you're doing it in QuickBooks Online, or maybe you've really gotten smart and you've hired that accountant to do it for you. So make sure you're keeping them up to date. What's another little tidbit that we have for them?
So whenever you are writing these checks to these people and you're like, you know what, I'm probably going to have to issue them a 1099 later in the year, before you hand them that first check, get them to fill that W-9 right then and there. It's easier to get the W-9 before you've handed them the money than it is afterwards. You know, for some reason something's gone wrong, you no longer use this person, they won't answer your phone calls. Well, now you're missing information that you need to run your business properly, but you can't get it because it's relying on somebody else. So just go ahead and get that W-9 up front. And if you don't end up needing to issue them a 1099, you at least have the information for future use. It doesn't expire. There's nothing wrong with having that information and not needing it. You'd rather have it and not need it than not have it and need it.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't know. If you're writing somebody a check for a service and it's $200, you're not sure if you're going to get over the $600 mark where you have to issue them a 1099. It's still that safety net. Here, fill out my W-9 and then you get your check. People are getting really used to that because 1099s have really been brought to the forefront in the last few years because the IRS actually is charging penalties for not issuing them. If you're using some kind of bookkeeping software, you can tag in there your vendors that they need to get a 1099, and then that software will actually give you a report at the end of the year of, hey, you tagged this person, that's who they need, who needs a 1099, and it makes it easier on you as well.
Using your software is like, all these softwares have a lot of capabilities, and that is a big saving grace for a lot of these things like this, is like using that vendor, using whatever your software calls it. And even if you don't track it as a 1099 payment or whatever they have in there, as long as you're tagging all of your payments to that one vendor, it is that vendor, it makes a world of difference come December 31st and you're trying to get these things done the first of the year.
For sure. So to wrap up, make sure you have a good system year-round to keep track of all of your records and who you're paying things to and what payment method you're using. Make sure that system is in place, and make sure you have a good accountant that you can call and be like, hey, I paid them for this. Do you think they need a 1099? Because you just may not be sure, and it may not be black and white whether you need to do it or not. It's always a good time to start visiting who actually you need that 1099 to be issued to around October, really, each year, because you don't want to wait until January 1st and to be scrambling to get the information if you didn't get that W-9 filled out throughout the year. We want to thank you for watching, and make sure that you like our video and subscribe to our channel, and have a great day. You didn't have to tell me to stop moving my hands. I kept them down here for a reason.